Life is one of the heaviest beings that one can try to support. It is known to go through storms, heavy winds, and downpours. But you are built to stand and not collapse. I challenge you to grow out of your comfort zone. The biggest giant that you will ever face in life is your mindset. One of the biggest things that limit us and keep us defeated is the opinion that we have of ourselves. When I changed my mind, it changed my life. I didn't just survive, I bounced back better. I bounced back better. Bounce 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 back better.
You're now listening to LifeStruction with Eric.
Welcome to the LifeStruction with Eric podcast. I am your host, Eric. And hey, happy Monday to you guys. Hope everyone's week is off to a great start. And if your Monday wasn't off to a great start and you kind of having a pity party with yourself, I dare you to pause right now and just thank God for being on his wake-up list this morning, because it could have been a little worse. So you should be yourself, because somebody wasn't blessed to be on the wake-up list this morning. So hey, take the time, hit that share button, share out this podcast. We have a great discussion today. So take the time, share out this podcast. Share it to your neighbor, your cousin, your coworker, whoever. Hit that share button. I have a great guy. We met a few months ago, earlier this year, through a mutual sister, and we had the chance to break bread at the coffee house. We sat for probably about 2 hours and just chatted it up, and I mean, we just connected in a great way. Strong spiritual brother, well knowledged, and when he opens his mouth, I mean, the way that he dissect different topics is just amazing. So at this time, I'm going to bring on my brother and friend, Eric Custodio. Welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Man, all is well. I'm super excited. Got a lot of things moving, a lot of stressful, some confusion and things like that. But it's all good problems when you look at it, like you said, with a positive mindset. And you have a lot of steps that you need to take, and being ordered by God is ultimate reward. And so just staying close to him as he leads me through these many steps in my journey. And like you said, we sat for a couple hours and just, man, really got deep. So I'm super excited to be here. I've heard a ton about your podcast, and when we met, I didn't know you were the same guy. And so,
are you serious?
Yeah. So I'm super glad to be here. And again, God puts everything in order. He puts everything in order. So I'm excited to be here.
Definitely. I'm definitely excited to have you, man. Before we start out with our discussion, let's just take the time and tell the people who you are, a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do.
Yeah, for sure. So, Minister Eric, a lot of you guys know me as the vocal minister on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. A lot of you guys know me for my vocal skills, and a lot of you guys know that I am church going. I love the Lord, but I did not grow up that way. Grew up in the dope house, mom in and out of jail, dad not present, the normal, rags to riches kind of story. But I think the main thing that people would not necessarily see about me is that I have a really, really dark and confusing past. I have 10 siblings. I'm one of 10 siblings. And I did not meet my father until I was grown with kids. I was already a dad, already making moves. But I really needed to seal that deal and meet him and get his side of the story, because as many of us men, we got legacies to build. And I needed to put some closure on that and some security on that so that I could progress forward in my life, and teach my boys from a place of prosperity and not a point of pressure and lack. And so I have two boys, 10 years old, and I have a 3-year-old who swears he's 10. Let's just keep him in prayer. My lovely wife, Shakara, we've been married. It'll be 12 years this year in October. 12 years. And so I'm a young guy. I had dreads up until 24 hours ago. We'll get into that story in just a second. But I'm officially inducted into the United States Air Force. Come on, somebody. And so God is just doing amazing things. And I'm going to use every gift that he gave me to spread his message and to love people and to give people the truth, because there's a lot of faulty Christians out there and I'm tired of it. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. Man, first and foremost, when I hear you talking about you have a 10-year-old and you've been married for did you say 13 years?
It'll be 12 years in
12 years. I know they say black don't crack, man, but you don't look a day over 24. So
say that.
Yeah, so yeah, you definitely look good, brother. So yeah,
praise God.
And I mean and that's one of the main things that a lot of brothers lack today is taking care of themselves.
Man,
taking care of,
come on.
we can be up there in age, but we still have to take care of ourselves. So
Absolutely.
I definitely applaud you for that. Contacted you are very willing to come on, and we were just kind of going back and forth about different stuff that we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
But when you said generational gaps, I kind of love, tapping in on that subject, because
Yes.
that it's a whole lot that falls under that. Like in life, for me, what I pulled out of when I saw that, it's like generational strongholds that someone have to be strong enough to bridge the gap and kind of destroy everything that's up under that bridge. In life, in our families, we make the mistake of doing the same thing that we have witnessed older people in our families do.
Yes.
They drink,
Yes.
they drug, gamble, chase women. The list goes on and on. But why do we think it's okay when we see the older generations in our family? Why do we think it's okay to do the same thing that we've seen them do, even when we know that it's wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing, as I this has been my life. I honestly feel and I honestly believe that God has showed me this through my former bishop, and it just sparked such a fire in me that our generations, there's such a gap, not in age, but in revelation. And we don't take the time to communicate our needs and our wants and what we desire and our goals. And we're so focused on, if you know anything about corporate America, everyone's focused on hitting a number. When you're in school, everyone's focused on a test result or a test score. When you play sports, everyone's interested in the trophy, but we oftentimes bypass the process. And Eric Thomas, he's a mighty, mighty man of God, and I love his motivation, but he talks about you have to enjoy the process. You got to be in the middle of the process while you're going through it, or else you're going to miss it and you're going to get to the end game and not appreciate it. And then that's where that cycle continues.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that cycle, because one of the things that I kind of feel like when they're like those cycles that we go through and we continue to carry it out, it's more like every time we allow it to have control, over our lives, it's basically like we are denying the ability, for it to change our life, because we're not doing anything to, change that connection that we have to that negativity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times we don't know, and this is where we get into strongholds and being secular, coming from a secular world into this God thing. We don't understand what a stronghold really is. We don't understand what generational curses really are, because when you're in the world, it's all about survival. We're not looking to the future. We're looking for 5 minutes from now, 1 day from now, our next paycheck. We're not looking 3-4 generations out. Whereas God said to prepare the generations. How are we preparing the generations? And we're not even looking ahead. We're looking down at our situation, at our problems, at our circumstances, at our obstacles. And then we're not necessarily coming to a conclusion or a solution. We're coming to a blame and then we have this combative nature with the people that we're supposed to be utilizing to get to those generations, to get to that next level of communication with our kids and our grandkids. And I tell people this all the time, and I feel like a millennial when I say this. So for all my older generation, I love y'all. I honor my elders. I honor my pastors and preachers and teachers. But one thing that I've noticed is our older generation has shut their mouths speaking to our young people because of the disrespect, the dishonor. There's no structure within these newer generations. And believe it or not, in most cases I found our young people are listening. They just have never been taught how to receive information. And me growing up, I grew up with a very abusive parent. And so when I had to voice something, I had to think, am I going to be whooped for speaking my mind, speaking my truth? Am I going to be punished for having an opinion, for having a voice? But then when you get older, they tell you, go out, use your voice. You're an individual. It's all about your identity. No, it hasn't been. So why would it be now? And so now there's this breakdown and our foundation is crumbling. And then on the vice versa of that, looking at our young people are speaking out from a place of hurt and depression and suicide. And so it comes off as derogatory, offensive, bigotry, all of these words that we use nowadays, when all it is we're speaking from a place of hurt, or they're speaking from a place of hurt and pain that is unprocessed. Again, we're talking about process. So all of these things are unprocessed. And now we're having the older generation. They're like these little hardhead, knucklehead kids, don't want to listen. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna save my breath. And that is so far from the truth. Your voice is heard regardless. And in that generation, the feedback that I've gotten, and I've been doing this study for like 6 years. Okay. So I've been putting a lot of time, a lot of energy into this. And the feedback that I get is when we speak, we don't immediately see the fruit of our words. And so the discouragement comes in from the older generation. From the younger generation, we're speaking out, we're yelling, we're hollering, we're crying, we're screaming, and we're not seeing the fruit of our voice. And so we shut down and we retreat. And so then you have two sides that are supposed to be coming like this. And because of the hurt, the pain, and not being heard, they're going like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have this gap, and it takes a few people to be able to see through the emotions and see the truth and grab hold of that thing and say, you know what, I'm not going to let this separate any further. And I'm going to be the leader of reconciliation in this. And we need more soldiers in that trench. We talk about trench ministry, but we don't have a lot of ministers doing reconciliation nowadays. And I think that's where we go next.
Yeah. I totally agree. One of the things is what you were saying about, how a lot of the elders don't speak into the young people now is because of how disrespectful the youth are. But then at the same time, a lot of the youth are not reaching out to the elders, I feel, because a lot of the elders are still living in, the 1970s, the 1980s, and things have totally changed, over the years, and they don't understand. Everything is totally different. Everything
Yeah,
is totally different. It may have a little bit uh, of the same foundation, but things are totally different. And a lot of the younger people are shutting down because as soon as they are open their mouth, you have that older person to say, you don't know nothing. No, this is,
yes,
this is the way that we did it. And this is the way, and you don't understand. It's not like that anymore. It's
absolutely.
not, yeah, it's those things that we call respect, you know, res- respecting your elders, honor your mother and father. All of those things, yes, all of those definitely supposed to still remain intact. But
Yeah,
a lot of other things are like in a total different aspect right now. But
yeah,
people, they fail to realize times have changed.
absolutely. And another hindrance is the the break in the generation has, we have the information. We're in the information age right now, where social media is global. You can cuss somebody out in a different country.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so vice versa, you can preach and save someone's very soul in another country. And so I think we've gotten into this mindset where technology is of the devil. You hear that a lot in churches nowadays. Technology is the devil. Technology is a tool that the devil can use. Technology is a tool. That's it. That's it. And it's your intention with the tool. You can take this wrench and you can try to hit a nail on the head. And unless you get the very little curvature of the wrench, it's not the right tool for the job. And so what we have to do is we have to educate ourselves on all of the tools that we have access to, not just in the physical, but in the spiritual realm. And then we have to combine those two. This is a sales tactic, and I don't know how deep I can get into this on this podcast, but it's a sales tactic to take an old principle and couple it with a new strategy. And together it becomes this new animal. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Chime, Zoom. We're on a live stream right now. We couldn't do this generations ago,
Right.
And so it's our ability to, as old folks, okay, how do I adapt? Because change is scary. Change is hard. We've had to adapt so many times that we get to a point where we're comfortable and we want to stay there. And good is the enemy of great, y'all. You cannot be great if you're willing to sit in the old, in the and archived things and principles and processes that you're used to. But on the vice versa, some of our younger people are so gifted and talented with information and education and all the social media platforms that they'd rather make money off of the older generation and make a profit off of them and take advantage of them than to share and teach them how to do it and how to become a part. Again, we're coming together. And so I think there's a lot of different aspects that if we were to humble ourselves and say, you know what? I don't know everything. And there's so much that I don't know that I should not have any pride, but I should be able to set that pride to the side for the ability and the willingness to be taught. Age is becoming a very, very sadly talked about topic where we don't respect. Age is just a number and all of that. I don't believe that at all. What I believe is that at every different stage, you learn different things. And sometimes in the time that we're in, stuff is coming out every couple of days. You have new
Hmm.
iPhones coming out, new computers, new systems, new operating iOSs. I mean, you have all these different things coming out. And when do we take the time to step back and say, okay, what do I know? What don't I know? And then who can I reach out to teach me? That's humbling. That's humbling.
Yeah. And, and you made a great point at the end about how new stuff is always coming out every day. And that's
Yeah.
why I love to read. I love to read. If I could spin this camera around, the total front of my desk is filled with books. I'm
Yes.
always knowledging up because we constantly have to stay knowledged up. You know, finish one book, but as I'm reading that book, I'm making notes and stuff
That's
that
it.
stands out to me, and I'm applying it to my life. I'm applying it to
Yeah.
my life because that's helping me, stay, because like even with this podcast that I do, I have to build content, you know, and if I keep reciting the same content over and over and over, what am I going to do? People are going to stop. I'm going to
Absolutely.
stop. I'm going to start losing listeners. People are going to stop tapping in because they're going to say he said the same thing over and over. But as I'm continuing to build content over and over and over, I have new content to bless the LifeStruction family with, and that goes the same for each individual. You have to
Yes.
be constantly doing something to basically upgrade yourself. Just like technology is always sending upgrades. Hey, we don't like it. A lot of them we don't like. Like at work. At work, every time we get used to one system, they come and they upgrade and they go over to another
Yes.
system and you have to learn all over again. That's the same thing with us.
That's
You
exactly
know, you get used to you read one book and you apply it to your life, or you read the Bible and you apply scripture. But that one scripture is not always going to be. It depends on the circumstance. It depends on the season that you're going through. If that scripture is going to be applicable in that season, so you
yes.
have to always go back and forth through the book. Figuring out which scripture it can reference to the season that I'm going through right now. Because sometimes it just may be a joyful season, but sometimes it's that painful season that we go through. So it just depends. But we always have to be making sure that we are upgrading, our knowledge. Because at the same time, it keeps peace in our life. And if you don't have peace when you're applying these things to your life, it's going to create a sense of peace.
Yes. And one of the big thing I'll add right there is a lot of us forget our testimony.
Yeah.
If I can say that, a lot of us
Yeah.
forget the process we had to live through and fight through and cry through and yell through, and God had to be patient with us and say, man, you keep bumping your head against this wall. I need you to learn. I need you to learn. God never gave up on us. So why are we giving up on his people? And sometimes
Right.
our testimony can be a direct, what do they call it in the military? A direct hit. Our
Yeah.
testimony can give somebody an insight to let them know we're human. That is all people really need to know. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. I've heard that my whole life. But it wasn't until I became a minister that I started teaching and pouring into other people's lives that I realized people will tune you out in a second if they don't think that you truly understand or that you care. And so a huge tool that you can use, and I'll say this for the listeners, do not forget your testimony. Please, Lord, don't forget your testimony. Don't forget that you were just there. Don't forget you were just struggling. You were just with your back against the wall, with your back on the floor, looking up. You were just in that point where you weren't hearing God's voice clearly and you were confused and you didn't know what to do next. And God sent somebody with that word, that kind word, or maybe that hard word. Some of us got loved real hard. And it was a word that we
Yeah.
needed, and maybe we weren't ready to receive it in that moment. But now it's one
Right.
of the pillars of our testimony. Don't forget that. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the we were texting back and forth with ideas. You text me, you said every mistake had its measure. Dissect that for me.
Man, come on. So this is something. So I love mentorship, guys. I love not having to go through the pains. I'm a tough individual physically. Let me say that. I'm a tough individual physically. I train, I work out, I drink the right water, I eat, and I take care of my body. But mentally, I'm not always the same. Mentally, I have a lot of issues that I'm processing. And because I was never taught how to process my emotions as a Black male, when the emotions arose, they either came in one of two ways. Either I got in trouble or somebody else got in trouble behind my actions. Okay. And so it took me being humble enough to accept mentorship in my life, to avoid some of these mistakes. And so when I say mentorship has its measure, meaning mentorship has the ability to put you in a position to win that you will never experience otherwise. And we wonder why a lot of these millionaires, these billionaires, these business owners, why they're continue to do it generation after generation after generation. You have 5-generation homeowners, 5-generation business owners, 5-generation authors, 5-generation millionaires. And you start to wonder, like, something they're doing has got to be working. But we're so prideful, and we've come from such a survival mindset because of, and this is a conversation that I had with a brother of mine who is not from America. He doesn't know slavery the way we know slavery as African Americans. And so it was such a deep, powerful conversation about how he saw generational wealth, generational mentoring, generational curses versus our skewed view of them because of slavery. And all of these, and this is a bondage that we go through. It's a bondage. And so when you talk about mentorship, I always try to find people that don't look like me, sound like me, act like me, have the same financial situation I got, the same mental situation I got, because the goal for mentorship is to teach you something you don't already know. And mentorship comes when you're available to be humble, okay? And you're available to take out your notepad, and you're willing to close your mouth and open up your ears and say, okay, this may hurt. I may have to bite the bullet on this one, but let me pick through it and figure out what information I need to get to my next level. And so when I say measure, sometimes our success steps are baby steps. Sometimes they feel non-existent in the moment, but then when you look back, you're like, wow, I was just there a year ago. Wow, I was just there 6 months ago. Wow, I was just there last week. But then there are times when you get the exact information you need to take that next step. And when you get that information, that light bulb experience, right? And then next thing you know, your momentum is ridiculous. It's exceedingly abundantly above anything you could ask or imagine, right? And now you're at a place where you've never been before. But then we stop and we say, okay, I've made it. Guys, success is not a destination. Success is not a destination. Success is a process and a journey and a mindset. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. This is another one of those things our elders used to say to us, that because our head was so hard, we didn't take enough time to receive the information. And then now that we're older and it starts to click, we're like, oh my God, she was right. He was right. What was I thinking? And now we regret when we could have just listened the first time. And so when I say mentorship has its measure, guys, what I mean is if you're not where you want to be financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, right? A lot of times it just takes you coupling and partnering with the right people. And I'm not talking about the people that are on the same page as you. You hear a lot of financial gurus say, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around, right? That's the same in the spirit. That's the same with your health. That's the same financially, economically. If you're hanging out with 5 people that don't own a home, what do you think the chances are of you being a homeowner?
Right.
If you hang out with a bunch of people that are always check to check, how are you possibly going to get out of that rat race? And so all that to say this, mentorship is something that no matter how intelligent you are, handsome you are, gorgeous you are, fit you are, even the biggest athletes in the world still have a trainer.
Yep.
Even some of the most monumental motivational speakers still go and sit in and listen to people talk. So what does that say about us? There's no excuse. We ought to be imitating what we see and innovating to help it fit our lifestyle, our success, and be able to push that forward and then be able to give back to someone else. What good is mentorship if you never pass it on? So that's my take on that. That's going to be a whole book. Catch the book when it come out.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love it. So, just summing up the entire discussion that we've had, who is responsible for bridging generational gaps, and what has to happen in order for it to bring change?
This is going to hurt a lot of you guys. You are responsible. I know, one of my favorite superheroes, Spider-Man. The moral of the story is with great power comes great responsibility. Most people don't even know that's a scripture. Most people don't even know that came from somebody that was not a body. Right? And so when we look at this idea, we oftentimes we get confused and we get overtaken by the information and what's going on in our life and what's happening. And so when we look at this idea of bridging the gap, everyone is responsible for making sure that the bridge gets built. We don't just depend on the brick. We don't just depend on the rail. We don't just depend on the mortar. We don't just depend on the sand. We don't just depend on the dirt on either side. Everything has to come together. And God said in his word, it's many members, but one body. Now, any real believer has to agree with that scripture. And so if we apply that scripture to all these different areas in our life, we have to understand my success is not just dependent on me. It's dependent on the people that are pouring into me, and it's dependent on the people that I'm pouring into and my ability to let go and let God. We have a lot of cliches that we live by nowadays. Older generations did a wonderful job of just summing it into a few words that it's almost become mundane. We almost don't see the gravity of what they were trying to share and what they were trying to let go of and the information. Some of the biggest regret, if you ever study, geriatric patients, some of their biggest regrets is that they didn't share their experiences with people. And they have all these ideas and all these dreams and all these visions that die with them. And so as we talk about bridging the gap, this is not only a communication thing, this is a trust thing. So many people in this generation die because they get into a situation where they don't trust and they can't trust. And so they find themselves alone and with no defenses. We got this whole Roe v. Wade thing happening right now. This is all a situation of us being able to come together and say, okay, what is true and what is righteous? And if we don't agree on it, let's spend the time and be mature enough. So I'm going to say this again. Let's spend the time and be mature enough to sit through that conversation. Some of us don't, because we don't want to be disrespected, we leave that door closed. Because we don't want to be discouraged, we leave that door closed. Because we don't want someone finding out that we really don't know what we're talking about, we keep that door closed. But My mom used to do this when we were kids. When we would get punished, she would take the door off the hinges.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
time to take the door off the hinges of your fears, guys, and just have the hard conversations. Have the hard disagreements. Find out what you're really disagreeing about, because most times you guys are talking about the same thing. I watch a
Right.
lot of street preaching. That's my heart and joy. I love street preaching. I love to be able to get on a megaphone and proclaim the word of God. But the thing that I love the most is having those one-on-one conversations and being able to come together with someone who may not believe the same thing as me, but together we're able to find truth and find a foundation that they can build off of and I can reflect off of. I've learned so much from people that don't know God about life and principles and things like that. And I'm willing to listen. And then I go back and I take that raw information and I filter it through the Spirit of God. And I filter it through the Bible and I filter it through his words. And he begins to give me those revelations. Okay, this is what they said. This is what is true. And this is what they experienced. Because truth and experience can oftentimes be completely different things. And most of you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes truth looks different to every person that was involved. Right? And so the beauty of being a detective for the Holy Spirit is it's our job to look at all the points of view and say, okay, God, where are you? What are you doing? What does your word say about this? What did you already tell us about these things? And allow God to bring that recollection. And then we're able to come together. And with humility, that bridge gets closer and closer until eventually one or two bricks start to touch. And now we can cross over to the other side. And now it becomes a two-way street where we're passing information and then the younger generation is passing information. The older generation is receiving information. The younger generation is receiving information. The older generation is receiving revelation. Sometimes we're too prideful to say we receive from the youth, but sometimes the youth are receiving and getting that revelation from the older generations. And so that bridge gap, it's a process. And if we can just have the heart, I'm going to say it again. If we can just have the heart to sit through the hard conversations, you'd be surprised how congruent those ideas and beliefs start to line up.
Wow. Yeah. I love how you dissected that, brother. And you're so true. If we can just, if the elders can just, humble themselves and put pride away and be willing to meet this new generation halfway, and we're able to in so many words make a truce, then we can be able to sit down and be able to pass that information back and forth. And as we pass that information back and forth, like you said, they'll be given revelation, and so coming from both sides, and and it definitely would pave the way for the next generation. But it has to start. It has to start with the elders. It has to start with the older people. It has to start with people like you and I. That's why I love what you're doing. I love what I'm doing. My Instagram post today, I basically was talking about how when God birthed this vision on the inside of me, how I didn't feel that I was capable of carrying out what he had showed me. But at the same time, I felt that way. But the people that I started to minister to through this podcast, they never saw me as being incapable. They let me know that I had something that they needed. I had info that they wanted. And to get the testimonies back from people that have taken my advice. They have taken the advice of the guests that I've had on here over and over, and seeing them grow. All I can say is thank you, God, not only for giving me that vision to birth this, but also, I'm grateful, that I was obedient and carried it
Yeah.
out, because, I'm at a point in my life now that even when I know that it's God that's given me that vision, I have to pump my brakes, to make sure, okay, is this Eric, moving in the flesh, or is this God that gave me this vision, to carry out? So, because it's a
Yes.
big difference. It's a big difference, because we can create some of the best ideas in our mind, and we think they're the best
Yes.
thing
Come
since
on.
Kool-Aid.
Woo.
But you know, we'll step out and start making moves, and we'll hear God say pretty much real quick, sit down. I didn't give you this. I didn't tell you to do this. So, but that's another thing that needs to be taught to the
Yes.
younger generation,
Yes.
because there are so many things now that the younger generation are doing. You have a lot of young people, they're creating businesses at 13, 14 years old. But like you said, it's because it's in the generations, so
Yeah.
it's been
Somebody had to
bestowed
teach
upon.
them.
It's right, but someone has to teach them that. But at the same time, you know, I could have a 12-year-old that may try to birth a business, and they're creating their mind all the things that they want to do, but they'll never reach out to anyone for guidance on it. Okay, so
Yes.
now you're acting out through flesh. You're not, you haven't gotten any advice. You haven't built any type of business plan. What do you know about a business plan? You know,
Oh man,
what do you know?
this
What do
is
you
so
know about a
perfect.
mission statement? So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So perfect. So check this out. So my 10-year-old, let's go back to Solomon for a second. We call him Solo. So one day, we're sitting here. This is such a good bridge. Okay. And I'm gonna say something regarding something else you just said in just a second. But a great example of this is, um, you know, I have an older sister that is a business owner. And growing up, she would always have us in the shop, sweeping his hair, doing the dishes, washing the towels, right? But there was never any teaching going on. There was never any instructing, okay, this is why you do this. This is what you do. It was like punishment. And so we saw her business as a punishment. How many of us have looked at a gift of God and seen it as a punishment?
Yeah.
This
Right.
is so good.
Right.
This is so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my son
Yeah.
Solo. So we take him and we say, Solomon, you always say how much money you want to spend and how many toys you want to buy. Where's this money coming from? And he goes, well, it's coming from you guys. And I said, well, what happens if we die? Then where's the money going to come from? He goes, well, I don't know. I said, so don't you think it'd be a good idea if you had something going that would pay you regardless of whoever's around? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, so what would you want to do? My son wants to do the little Beyblade. They're the things you put them together and you spin them. They're kind of like the tops back in the day, and you
Yeah.
battle them
Yeah.
and you go through and you could customize them. They're amazing, right? Cool. If I'd had this as a toy, I'd never went outside. Okay. And what he did was he said, Dad, I want to start a Beyblade tournament thing, something where kids can come together. They can buy Beyblades, they can buy snacks, and they can just sit there and game and tournament all day. I said, okay, break it down for me. What does this look like? Now, he doesn't know what a business plan is, but he knows what it means to break it down. I always say, Solomon, break it down for me. Put some clothes on that for me. Give me some details. And so what he did, he took a piece of paper. He went and found him a little colored pencil. And he started writing down, okay, step 1, I'm going to sell a whole bunch of Beyblades. Step 2, I'm going to get a whole bunch of snacks. Step 3, I'm going to get a whole bunch of drinks. Step 4, I'm going to ask their parents what day they're free. Step 5, I'm going to fundraise some money together, and so I can get everything to where when they need something, I'm the person they come to. My son is 10 years old. This is going to humble a lot of people when I say this. My son is 10 years old. He didn't need any instruction. All he needed was communication. Break it down for me. Tell me what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, we don't tell God what we want because we're ashamed. We don't feel we deserve it. we've never gotten it before. Maybe last time we asked for something, we were told no. Maybe we got a whooping. Maybe we were punished. Some of us, and I'm going to be real, if I can be candid, if I can be candid, some of us asked for love and got abused.
Yeah.
Some of us asked for friendship and were taken advantage of. Some of us asked for mentorship and they used it against us. They manipulated us. And so in this world that we live in, we get all of these negative things happening to where we don't want to dream anymore. We don't want to visualize. We're too hurt. But when I tell you, when I looked at this boy's list, when I looked at his list and I said, step 1, step 2, tears started filling up in my eyes because I said, the first question I asked myself was, where were my parents at to encourage me to do these things?
Yeah.
Some of us need to forgive our parents for just not knowing this. They can't teach what they don't know. Some of us need to forgive our parents for not knowing. And then we need to take responsibility for the fact that we still don't know. And so I took that as a sign. I said, God, okay, my son wants to be a business owner. I said, okay, I need to make sure my business succeeds, because if I fail at the business, it's going to give him permission to fail at his business. Come on. Come on. And so you bring up an amazing point when we're talking about mentorship and bridging that gap. I'm tying it all together, guys. Hopefully you're following me here. Sometimes you just need permission to be great. You need permission from someone that you respect, someone that you love, from God. Maybe you've never heard it's your season. Maybe you've never heard you don't have next, you got right now. This is your time to shine. This is your time for your gifts to show up. This is your time to make the money you've been dreaming about and you've been planning for and you've been budgeting for. This is your time. So for those of you that are listening, let me just speak a word of encouragement to you. You have full permission to do whatever it is that you dream. You have permission to do whatever it is that God's calling you to do. Stop making excuses. Forgive them. Forgive who you need to forgive, and then forgive yourself for not holding yourself accountable. And then just grab you a piece of paper. Let's just make it simple. Let's make it real applicable. Grab you a piece of paper, grab you a pen, and just start with step 1. If it's about your health, step 1, get more sleep. Step 2, drink a gallon of water a day. If it's about your mental health, step 1, write down 10 things that you love about yourself. Step 2, write down 10 things you hate about yourself, and then counter those with things you love about yourself, right? If it's spiritual, write down some things that you just don't understand about God. Maybe you still have issues with believing that he's real, believing that his son died, believing that he's here now, living, live, spirit is alive. And then write down those things and start processing those. And then take all of this information, find you somebody that knows more than you and say, here you go. Help me.
Right. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Good.
Yeah. Yep. You hit it dead on the head. If you don't know, reach out to somebody. That's where that mentorship comes in at, reach out to somebody that you don't know and ask for help. And that's where, a lot of us, we fall prey because we never ask for help. That's why, last year I made a big decision, something I had been putting off. I'm like, okay, I need a coach. I need a coach. It's a lot of stuff that I don't know, and I need someone that can show me the way. And hey, it's been, he's been a huge blessing to me. So yeah, definitely.
That's amazing. And congratulations. Eric, a lot of people don't celebrate your wins because they're too busy losing.
Yeah.
And so congratulations. If anybody told you that, man, it's a humbling experience to find a mentor, because you have to go through that I don't know everything phase, and that can oftentimes be real detrimental if you're not looking at it correctly. But on the other side of it, once you learn the things that you need to know and you're executing, and then you can look back and be like, wow, I was just there.
Right. Yeah.
says we're overcome
That's
by the
it.
words of our testimony. Sometimes we just need to be able to tell people, hey, last year I needed a mentor.
Right.
Somebody's thinking right
Right.
now in their mind, wow, I needed a mentor last year too, and I didn't get one. Man, maybe this is like a confirmation, like, okay, God, maybe I do need to give me a mentor and stop playing these childish games.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. And I get it. It's a lot of people out here with the wearing that coach label right now, and
Ooh.
so I just I'm
Mm.
just going to just throw it out there, just pray. If you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for a coach, just make sure you pray on it, because God is going to place the person, in front of you that he will, take you by the hand and help you build, what you're trying to build, because there are some people out here, they're all about money and
Yes.
they don't have any more knowledge than you have. So
Say that,
just make sure,
Jesus.
yeah. So make sure that you're praying on, you pray on it. Don't just jump up and grab somebody, to try to mentor you through something that you may be mentoring them through. Because let me
Ooh.
tell you, if they're asking you more questions than answers that they're giving you, then you're teaching them. They're not teaching you. So,
Ooh. And here's
you know,
another thing. Oh, this is so rich. Here's one thing my mentor showed me. He said, E, here's a few key phrases or words that will let you know you've already found your mentor. You guys might want to write these down. So one of the first things that I was given was, when they start asking you about your goals and your dreams, typically they're fishing for something. They're fishing for an
right.
open door. If somebody is asking you about your goals and dreams, they're asking about your family, they're asking about what you want to do with your life, they're asking about your job, where do you work, what do you do? They're trying to get an understanding of who you are so they can determine if they're a good fit for you. Any mentor that comes up and
Right.
says, you need me, that's not it. That is not your
Right.
mentor. If
That's
somebody
right.
comes up to you with that attitude and that spirit, you obviously, no, I don't need you. Actually, I need the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have somebody that is willing to come alongside of you, if you guys are listening to the podcast and you've heard people say this to you, hey, I want to come alongside of you. Hey, I want to help you do this. Hey, can I help you do this? Hey, what do you need for this to work out? They're fishing for an opportunity to bless you. And if you're not careful, how many times have I can think of 10 right now off the top of my head where there was an opportunity that God was trying to help me with, and I closed the door on that opportunity because I wasn't listening. How
Right.
many of you guys have
Yeah.
already started to close the door because you didn't know what to look for? The whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose of being an
Mm-hmm.
investigator is you got to know what to look for.
Right.
When you're
That's
looking
right.
for your goals and dreams, start looking for these signs, these questions, these tips that people are giving you that shows you, hey, I'm invested in you. Those are the people you want around you. You don't just want the people that snicker when you talk about your success, that complain and talk bad about you behind your back when you release good information. Somebody that laughs in your face when you tell them about your goals and dreams. We don't need those people. We need the people,
Right.
okay, how do we get there? I've had people tell me, I've told them something that God has showed me, and they pulled out a sheet of paper. This sheet of paper is going to be rich. Somebody's going to be blessed by
Mm-hmm.
this. They pull out their sheet of paper and they're like, okay, how do we get this done? And they're writing as I'm speaking, and we're like collabing, and it's incredible. And then you see these things start to birth, and this level of excitement and urgency that starts to build in you to reach your goals, because now you have support. Now you have backing.
Right.
I hope I'm making some
Right.
sense. I hope I'm making sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, man. I totally agree. Totally agree. So yeah, man, great discussion. Great discussion, which I knew it was going to be. Thank you so much for coming on. If there is something that you could give the LifeStruction family in your closing, based on what we chopped it up about, what would you close with?
Absolutely. One saying, guys, It is your responsibility to bridge the gap. It is your responsibility to bridge the gap. If you're older, younger, richer, poorer, black, white, Asian, spiritual, non-spiritual, it is your responsibility, because it says it takes a village to raise a kid. Okay. And I want you guys to realize that you have something to bring to the table. You have a gift, you have a skill, you have an ability, you have a heart, you have a servancy about you. Something in you, God birthed in you. It's an unrepented gift that he gave you. And it's your responsibility to use it to connect his people, We're conduits. We are conduits. And so take this. If there's nothing else on this podcast that I said that blessed y'all, it is your responsibility to bridge that gap. God bless y'all.
Yes, sirree. Your responsibility. That's it. That's it, man. Minister E, thank you so much, brother. Hey, if people want to connect with you on social media, you said it earlier. How can they connect with you on social media?
Man, so right now, guys, I am setting a blaze to the TikTok scene right now. You guys can go to my TikTok, vocal minister _. I do reactions, I do singing, I do rapping, I do motivational speaking. You guys can find me on Facebook at Gift Legacy Motivations. Gift like a present, legacy like passing it on, motivations, Gift Legacy Motivations. And the business Gift Legacy LLC is also out there. Or you can just connect with me personally, Eric D. Custodio. All right. And I try my best to respond, because again, I believe social media is a tool that you can use for your detriment, or it's a tool you can use for your growth. And so for me, I take every opportunity to bless people, to sing, and just use every gift and skill that I have for its people and for its purpose. So that's where you can find me. You can go online. You can order my book, Overcomer. It is on Amazon. Overcomer. You can search my name. You can look up Overcomer. And that'll give you 7 tips on how to be an overcomer in your life, how to get through the pains, how to get through the unforgiveness, how to get through the guilt and shame, so you can live the best life possible.
Hey, I need that book. Yeah, I definitely need to get that.
I got you.
In my library. Definitely. I love it. I love the title of it. So I already know what the inside consists of. So definitely thank you so much for that, brother. And yeah, if anyone that is maybe watching for the first time, be sure to connect with me on social media. You can follow me basically on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. LifeStruction with Eric on all platforms. So definitely follow me on that. And one last thing, if you are an author, this includes you, Eric. You know, we are getting ready for our next showcase, October 1st. So registration is now open for that October 1st showcase. It's an amazing time. If anyone that is watching that has witnessed it, it's an amazing time where these authors just get on stage and they pour into the people. So, hey, registration is open. Payment plans are available. So you can go to that link that's going across the bottom, mylifestruction.com, and hit that info button, and someone will email you with all of the details. But yeah, if you're an author, sign up before there are no spots left. But yeah, other than that, looking here, I don't see any questions over in the comments. So thank you guys for tapping in on this Monday. And yeah, once again, Minister E, I appreciate you for setting aside the time to come on and chop it up with me.
Yes, sir. God bless you. Big Eric, I call you.
Yes, sir. Don't log off just yet. I'm just going to close out here. Just want to chat with you for like 2 minutes, so don't log off just yet.
God
But
bless you
yeah,
guys. Love y'all.
thank you guys for tapping in, and we'll see you next week. Have a blessed week.